foreclosures are up in Alberta by about 54% from the 2 years prior. And the spike in foreclosures is being blamed on joblessness and debt. That seems entirely reasonable with the amount of people on employment insurance right now in Alberta nearing 90,000. Paying a mortgage can be tough. Sometimes, I guess, it's becoming impossible. It's the jingle mail days of the 1980s back to haunt us again. Jingle mail was when so many people were mailing their keys back to the banks during Trudeau Sr.'s National Energy Program that the mail in Alberta was said to jingle. Except this time it isn't the National Energy Program being foisted upon us by the federal government against our will. It's a carbon tax from right here in Alberta being compounded by a promised one from the federal government, and then a spate of job-killing, investment-killing NDP policies, like the minimum wage hike, Bill 6, the corporate tax hike, higher energy prices, crazy regulations, and additional business costs that just make job creators say, yeah, no thanks, Alberta, we'll take our investment somewhere else. You see, these socialist policies that are designed to take the wind out of the sails of big businesses actually always hurt the regular people first. But you know what could fix this whole mess? You know what could turn this sour, stalled-out economy around? One single pipeline, and not a promised fantasy pipeline that will never be built because the government cares about such stupid made-up stuff like social license, but actual steel tubing welded together, buried in the ground, and then with crude oil flowing through it. A real pipeline. And we don't have to go very far to see how fast and how well a pipeline, just one pipeline, can right the ship of an oil-producing jurisdiction. A year ago, North Dakota was in the same place as we are here in Alberta. They had a busted oil economy with a crisis in the real estate market caused by, guess what? Yeah, that's right, joblessness and debt. And they had a pipeline that was opposed by environmental NGO busybodies and their useful idiots in the Hollywood left-wing protest movement. And the Obama administration was listening to those idiots instead of oil and gas experts and economists. Sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? Except something amazing happened. Donald Trump happened. Trump became president, and almost immediately after his January inauguration, Trump signed an executive order to restart the Dakota Access Pipeline project. Basically, Trump told the out-of-state protest movement to GTFO because he was going to do what was right for the people of North Dakota and for the people of the United States. And about 90 days later, oil started flowing through the pipeline that Obama stalled and that Hillary Clinton promised to kill for good. For context, it's been almost 3 years since the Energy East pipeline project first applied for regulatory approval in Canada. And the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion was first announced in 2012. We're going on 5 years for that thing. Even though it's been approved by the federal government, it hasn't even had a shovel break ground yet. And now, just 8 weeks after the first oil flowed through the DAPL pipeline, North Dakota is seeing a boom time. And DAPL isn't even flowing at capacity yet. According to ABC News, industry officials and others say the uptick comes from a bump in crude prices, regulatory certainty with the more drill-friendly Trump administration, and the prospect of having nearly half the state's crude coursing through the Dakota Access Pipeline, which could open markets abroad where top prices are typically fetched. Daily oil production in North Dakota is back above 1 million barrels per day. See, all we have to do is look at North Dakota to see how doing the opposite of what Trudeau and Notley are doing can quickly fix an economy. It took 8 weeks, one pipeline, and the will to tell anyone arguing for social license and more regulations to just go and pound sand, and voila, prosperity. But Trudeau and Notley aren't going to change. They actually think social license, this idea that trying to satisfy the crocodile so it eats you last, is a legitimate way to govern. And things are going to get even worse for us here in Canada. The better the U.S. looks for investment, the less investment we'll see. It's just that simple. Until things change in Canada, the mail will keep jingling, but our pockets won't. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunreid. Hey, have you signed our petition calling on the federal government to stop their job-killing carbon tax on everything? To sign the petition, go to stopthecarbontax.com.